Okay, we're going to talk about dividing polynomials, a little more complicated version of dividing polynomials, where you're going to have x and y instead of just x. Basically, this follows the same exact process that you've been doing since you learned long division. And so we're just going to go through what do you do when you do long division? What are the steps? And let's make sure we know that first. So let's just say we have this problem, 8 divided into 3,808. And what do we do first? The first thing we do is divide. So what do we divide? We tried to divide 8 into 3, but that's not going to happen because 8 is bigger than 3. So we're going to divide 8 into 38. So 38 divided by 8, and that is about 4. 8 will go into 38 4 times, and so we will put that 4 right here. The next step is to multiply. What do we multiply? We multiply the 4 times the 8, and we get 32. And we put that down here below the 38. 4 times 8 is 32. And the next thing we do is subtract, and we're going to get 6. We're going to bring down the next number right next to that 6. So we'll bring this 0 down and put it right there. And once we've done that, we start all over again and divide again. So we're going to divide 8 into 60. So 60 divided by 8, and 8 goes into 60 about 7 times. So we're going to put 7 up here next to that 4 in our quotient. And then next step is to multiply. We're going to multiply that 7 times our 8, and we're going to put that 56 down there below the 60. And we're going to the next step, which is to subtract. Then we will bring down again, and now we go back to number 1. Start again. So we divide 8 into 48. So 48 divided by 8. We will put the 6 up here. And now we will multiply 8 times 6. And our next step is to subtract. And there's nothing left to bring down, so we are done. We have 8. We have our quotient, which is 476. And we know that means that 476 times 8 is equal to 3,808, because that's what division means. Okay, now we're going to do polynomial division. It works the same way, except for a couple of things. When you're doing regular division like we just did, you don't have to worry that you're not going to be able to subtract two numbers. If they're just numbers, you can subtract them. With polynomials, though, remember, you can only add and subtract like terms. That means things like 2x squared y minus 3x squared y would be negative x squared y. You can subtract those kinds of things, but you can't subtract things like x squared minus x. Those are not like terms. You can't subtract them. So when you're setting up your division for polynomial division like this, where you've got x's and y's raised to different powers, you have to be careful that you are lining up your like terms correctly so that you are only subtracting or adding like terms. All right, so we're going to start out. We're going to divide x cubed plus y cubed by x plus y. So the x plus y goes on the outside, and the x cubed I'm going to put here, but I'm going to put the y cubed way over there because I don't know what all is going to happen in the middle of this. There could be all kinds of things that I can't add and subtract. I'm going to need to leave space so that I can align things up in an organized way. So now you've done this kind of division where you had maybe x squared plus 2x or something, where you didn't have an x squared term and you had to put a 0 x squared, things like that. But in this problem, you've got x's and y's. You don't know what powers you're going to get, so you can't just put some zeros in here. You don't know what is going to be there, but you still consider all that space in there space for zeros. So we're going to start out by dividing. X plus y divided into x cubed. How am I going to do that? Well, you're not going to look at the y right now. You're just going to pay attention to the x when you do the division step. Only when you do the division step, just pay attention to x. All the other steps, you pay attention to everything. So we're going to start by dividing x divided into x cubed. So x cubed divided by x is x squared. And that is what we're going to put in our quotient right here, x squared. So we did our division. Now we're going to do multiplication. When we do the multiplication step, we will pay attention to the y also. So we're going to multiply x squared times x plus y. And that's going to be x cubed plus x squared y. And that is what we're going to put down here. So x cubed plus x squared y. We did our multiplication. Now we're going to do our subtraction. So we subtract x cubed minus x cubed is 0. And then 0 up here, 0 minus x squared y is minus x squared y. We're going to now bring down, but there's nothing to bring down. We don't want to bring down the y cubed yet. It's not time. You'll see when it's time, but it's not time yet. So we're going to go back to the beginning and we're going to divide again. Again, we're only paying attention to x right now when we divide, not for the other steps, but just for the division. X divided into negative x squared y. How do you do that? What is that? Negative x squared y divided by x is going to be negative xy. And that's what we'll put in our quotient. Now we multiply negative xy times x plus y is going to be negative x squared y minus xy squared. So that is what we're going to put down here, and we're going to be careful that we line it up so that our like terms are together. So negative x squared y goes right here, minus xy squared. So we did our multiplying. Now we will do our subtracting. Little line here. Negative x squared y minus negative x squared y is 0. 0, we'll just assume there's a 0 up there. 0 minus xy squared is positive xy squared. So we subtracted, and now we're going to bring down, but there's nothing to bring down, so we're not going to worry about it. All right, we go back to the beginning and start over. We're going to divide again. We're still looking at x only right now. X divides into xy squared. So xy squared divided by x is going to be just y squared. Next thing we put in our quotient is plus y squared. And now we will multiply. We're going to multiply x plus y times y squared. So y squared times x plus y is going to equal y squared x plus y cubed. We've got x y squared and plus y cubed, and we can see up there we have a y cubed to subtract that from. And when we do, we're going to get 0 here and 0 there. And so we're done. We don't have a remainder. Done all the steps, and this is what we got for our quotient. And what does this tell me? You know that when you multiply x plus y times x squared minus xy plus y squared, you should get x cubed plus y cubed. And so what you just discovered here is that x cubed plus y cubed, which is the sum of two cubes, is actually factorable. It can be factored. There it is. There's the factorization. X plus y times x squared minus xy plus y squared is equal to x cubed plus y cubed. So if you ever saw a sum of cubes in a problem, you would know you can factor that. Okay, we're going to do one more. X cubed minus y cubed divided by x minus y. We're going to set it up exactly the same way, and we're going to do it exactly the same way. We're just going to worry about x when we do the division part, and everything will work out. So the first thing we're going to do is divide x into x cubed. So x cubed divided by x is equal to x squared. That's our division part, and we're going to put that x squared up in our quotient right there. And now we're going to move on to our multiplying. So we're going to multiply x squared times the whole thing, x minus y. X squared times x minus y is going to be x cubed minus x squared y. And so we're going to put that down here, x cubed, lining up those like terms, minus x squared y. And now we're going to move down to subtraction. So when we subtract x cubed minus x cubed is 0. 0 minus negative x squared y is going to be positive x squared y. And now we're going to bring down, but we don't have anything to bring down, so we're going to go back up to the top and divide again. So we're going to divide x into x squared y. So x squared y divided by x is going to be xy. So plus xy right here. Now we multiply xy times x minus y, x squared y minus xy squared. That is going to go down here, and we're going to line up our like terms. X squared y goes right under that x squared y minus xy squared. And now we're going to subtract x squared y minus x squared y is 0. 0 minus negative xy squared is positive xy squared. And now we could bring down actually now, but it doesn't really matter. We know it's there. So now we're going to divide xy squared by x. And when we do that, we just get y squared. And that is going to go into our quotient. And now we multiply y squared times x minus y. And that's going to give us xy squared minus y cubed. And it's very nice because that's exactly what we have. Xy squared minus y cubed. And when we subtract, again, we get 0. And so we're done. And so what we just found out is that a difference of cubes is also factorable. You know that if you multiply the divisor times the quotient, you get the dividend. So x minus y times x squared plus xy plus y squared is equal to x cubed minus y cubed.